Welcome to this webinar on managing risk in Agile Development Projects. As Susan mentioned, my name is Peter DeYoe and I'm a director here at CAI. I've been involved in application development since the mid-'80s and have certainly seen a number of system development life cycle approaches to software development over the years. This morning, what I wish to do is spend a few minutes discussing how to incorporate risk management within Agile software development projects. At CAI, we embarked on Agile methods to drive our software development projects in 2004. Since then, we've completed a number of mid-size and large projects using an Agile-based framework, primarily centered on using Scrum. The information I'll be sharing this morning is based on both our successes and at times challenges faced in implementing Agile over the last 8 years. In those 8 years, we've discovered that implementing Agile is simple on the surface and yet difficult in the trenches. We would embark on projects in the past where we believed that we understood the principles of Agile, put together teams of top-notch developers, BAs, testers, Scrum Masters, and product owners, only to discover that somewhere in our third or fourth sprint that we missed something. Some aspect of the project was overlooked or forgotten as we began to exercise the mechanics of Agile. It became evident early in our Agile experience that we were not properly identifying the risks inherent in any software development project. At first, we would identify what we perceived as risks in the beginning of the project, but did not create a risk management process that would drive down risk throughout the entire life of the project. So we started to understand that risk identification, classification, quantification, and remediation was not just something to be addressed at the beginning of the project, but rather a systemic process that must be exercised on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. It was through this discovery that we are continually improving our framework for managing risk in our Agile-based software development efforts. Bear with me one second. Thank you. Of course, any discussion on using Agile methods must begin with the Agile Manifesto. As the manifesto states, we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we've come to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. And as we've all learned, it is not that we don't value processes or documentation or contract negotiation or following a plan. It's that we value more individuals and interactions, working software, customer collaboration, and responding to change. So how does a risk management framework fit into the tenets of the Agile Manifesto? After all, adopting any risk management framework will require some form of process, some level of documentation, some discussions around contracts, and some level of planning. Is it really possible to include a risk management framework and still be Agile? So let's begin with a brief discussion on Agile. The methods that we used in the past have been primarily plan-based models. In the plan-based approaches, we spend a significant amount of time and energy up front in creating what we hope to be clear and accurate specifications of the end product. We create requirement specifications that are used to define exactly what the customer says he wants or needs. We then lock down those requirements and create design specifications. We then get a bunch of signatures indicating approval and acceptance by those involved in the formulation of the product. We then build elaborate and sometimes very complex, detailed project plans that become the gospel for success. We then begin the work of writing the code. Up to this point, no working software is completed, and the target customers have only seen some representation of the software product. Unfortunately, we begin to understand that things were missed in the requirements, or the requirements did not accurately represent the end product. Because our plan did not include time for reworking these mistakes, we find that from early on in the development that we are behind in meeting the project schedule and cost promised in the project plan. In addition, there was usually little upfront work to define the values that the software components were providing to the business. So our plan is operating on delivering all the requirements and not necessarily the most valuable requirements of the project. Agile, on the other hand, was created as a value-based model. More important than following some plan that was carved in stone at the beginning of the effort, before we really knew a lot about the product we were developing, is the value that we are operating and providing to the business. Value-based models, such as Agile, focus on identifying the high-value business objectives that drive our project planning and continually review the business value of a particular feature or function and changing our assumptions around value if necessary to deliver the greatest value possible. It is a continuous process of questioning our assumptions and values to ensure high-value delivery to the business. In a value-based model such as Agile, we never try to lock down all the requirements before we begin elaborating, designing, and building. We seek to implement what is well understood now and defer features until we have a clear understanding of their requirements. So, as a review, in an Agile value-based model, we work as highly collaborative teams that constantly evaluate the value that we are delivering. We work in short iterations and deliver working software with each iteration that then gets presented to the stakeholders and business community on regular intervals. We learn from each iteration and we assess the business priorities with each interval thoroughly, inspecting and adapting our software at every step of the way. It is a fluid process based on learning, assessing, and adapting to the changing needs of the business, our own processes, and our assumptions. Businesses create feature lists and prioritize them based on risk and value. Delivery is completed when working software is created in each iteration. Each iteration produces a potentially production-ready element of the final product. Every iteration can result in the addition, deletion, or reprioritization of features at any time, and the business can stop the development at any iteration and be able to use what has been built to date. So, with all this in mind, do we even need a risk management program if we are doing Agile? True or false? Using an Agile methodology eliminates the need for risk management. True or false? Agile methods eliminate high-risk development components. Again, true or false? The typical risk management considerations do not apply to Agile. True or false? Using Agile will ensure that my projects will have little or no risk. When we first started applying Agile, I believe we were lulled into a false sense of security. We thought that simply by applying Scrum to our projects, that was all the risk management we needed, that somehow all the risks associated with software development were eliminated simply by using Agile methods. However, we were somewhat mistaken on that account. The truth became obvious to us. We learned that not building an approach to managing risk was actually increasing our risks as we moved from sprint to sprint. We needed a more holistic view of the risks involved with the project instead of just a sprint-to-sprint view. We learned that the methods we were applying helped to identify risks earlier, but did not offer a process for constantly evaluating those